Oh,
Welcome back.
Didn't see you guys there. How's it going?
Happy Saturday. We're back again. Welcome back, chat. Happy to have you here. Happy to be here. It's our honor to report to you Saturday mornings at 9 a.m.
100%. It's honorable for us to be able to put on and make sure that you guys have a better weekend.
Exactly. That's all we want, to somehow enhance people's lives, somehow add value to people's lives. That's all we're looking to do. We're excited about this episode, something a little bit different. We're going to talk about one topic for quite some time, but no, we're very excited, man. And chat, you guys, thank you for the support. Thank you for the feedback. Thank you for everything that you've been giving to us. We do want to mention, if you're not subscribed, go subscribe.
Yep.
Go tell your 5-year-old sister to subscribe.
Yeah.
What does it really take out of your life to go subscribe?
Absolutely nothing. It's absolutely free. My entire family tree is subscribed to our YouTube channel. I have people that it's like my great grandfather that lives in Kentucky. I've never met, and I guarantee he doesn't even know what YouTube is. He found a way to subscribe.
Right.
And it's all for the road to Toledo. We're still building up. Right now, we're 33% of the way there. Toledo's loading.
Facts. One third. So that's basically a third.
We're a third of the way there. You boys want to see us in Toledo. You guys like the content. Just subscribe or die.
But yeah, we do want to get to Toledo. That's the goal. That's not the end goal. That's just the start goal. That's just where we're at. I'm going to preface this episode. We might be a little sweaty, Dons, in this, John.
Yeah.
It's hot in here.
It's been every episode. Chris has a very large heating fixture right behind me that spews out volcanic ash every time we record. So it's brutal. It's something that we have to endure. We keep the window closed, fans off. We want to make sure that you guys can hear us, but it is unbearable. I'm dying. My internal temperature right now is about 30 degrees over homeostasis.
Yeah, and I feel a drop of sweat coming as well. But hey, we're happy that the weather's nice. We're happy that it's nice outside. It's not freezing anymore. There's no snow on the ground. It's a little gloomy. It's been raining today. The lighting's not as good as it normally is.
It proves a lot about us, too. Pushing through adversity, putting it on, regardless of the circumstance.
100%. That's all we're going to do. Pushing through adversity, man. Talk about after last episode. We went to the bar crawl. You guys know, if you're watching episode 4, that's what it was almost a pregame for the bar crawl.
It was.
Is what we treated it as. I remember we get to the first location of the bar crawl, and I look at Joe. We're not even there for 15 minutes. And I remember looking at Joe, and I go, dude, I'm feeling the podcast beers.
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, I am too. And I was like, we still have, at that point it was 2. I knew we still had 10 hours left. And I was like, we're in a bad place.
It's bad news from the get. I mean, we went to Tequila Blue to stars, a bunch of people. Everybody that got there had fresh legs. They were just roaring, ready to go because they had just started drinking. We were 4 hours in already. And
so we started at 10 a.m. for the podcast.
Yeah. We didn't stay there too long. I mean, we just had a couple. It was all pretty much chill there. I know we ran into some people that we knew. That was kind of like the start of your saga.
Let's walk chat through our day of that, because not much has transpired other than the bar crawl.
Yeah.
We kind of just worked our corporate lives and came back here, and we're here again. But what I will say is that it started off at Tequila Blue.
Yeah.
It started off, that's where we were at. It was 2-packed. That's where everybody starts.
Yeah.
And once the shoulders started bumping into everybody, we're going to walk you through the day. What my perspective was, just a quick, if it was like the cliff notes of this, I would say running into people I know, losing Joe, and then surviving at night would be the synopsis of the night. But we're going to go more detailed.
I had the exact experience in the first spot. We can just kind of like skip the first few spots. Nothing really memorable happened. We went to Tequila Blue, pretty chill, nothing too normal, same vibe. And then we went to O'Toole's, yeah. And then
I went to Fifth Ave.
Yeah, we got O'Toole's though. It was pretty standard. We got a pizza. If you guys watched the last episode, you know that I was boasting about how I don't like to eat until later in the day. It was a massive mistake. If you guys watched that episode, do not follow anything I told you. Massive mistake. So we get to O'Toole's. I finally ordered a pizza. And by the time that food was introduced to my body, it was too late. There was no coming back from the point that I was at. The food It tried. It did its best, but at that point, it was too far gone.
It couldn't soak up all the green beers we were having.
Couldn't have done it. And that was the point where we were at the point where it was like too far gone.
The girl that comes around at O'Toole's with the
basically just a stripper,
just right. Well, I was gonna say right behind a doctor. You were going stripper, but the girl that comes around with all the vials.
Yeah,
that she's like, oh, it's whatever.
Yeah,
I remember being like,
she's like a doctor apple. If a doctor gave you AIDS instead of curing AIDS.
They give you diseases. They give you a worse time versus giving you a better time. But I remember, I think I got us like grape shots,
whatever it was,
or green apple, and
vulgar.
I was like, this is probably the end of our night. But for me, at least at the beginning portion of our day, it was a gauntlet of running through Old Flames.
Mm-hmm.
It was first bar that we're at. Someone's coming up to me, hey, I miss you. It's been a while because it's been a couple of years.
Yeah.
And then these are all people that I've talked to for at least a little bit, at least longer than one date.
Right.
We'll put it that way. First bar, run into somebody, talk to them. It's all good experience. I leave on good terms. I'm a good human being. I'm a friendly guy. And that's something I actually pride myself on, is that I'm able to talk to old flames and then there's no animosity. There's no Chris did something wrong. Chris cheated on me. Chris did that. No, I was a good guy. I was just honest with them and it ended how it ended.
Yeah.
But first bar, ran into somebody. Second bar, didn't run into somebody. Third bar, run into somebody. Fourth bar, run into another person. And it was just like everywhere I went, it felt like I had to play the game of, do I miss them? Should I say something to them? Like, what should I say?
It's just like, it's Battleship, dude. You're trying to dodge mines. You're not trying to get, you're not trying to let them know where your location is. And that you don't want to have those conversations, I would imagine.
Right. I do like catching up with them. I do like seeing where they're at, how they're doing.
Really? I'm so the opposite. I'm the opposite, dude. When you're out of my life, I don't want to hear your name. Don't want to see your face.
It's valid. I just, I usually tend to leave relationships or situationships as like I'm leaving the door open a little bit. Like they could creep back in if they want to.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to be the one to creep back in.
Yeah. I'm like at the standard of when girls are with me, or honestly, like even if you're my friend or whatever, I'm the gold standard. So when I exit your life, it collapses. You probably get addicted to drugs. You're on welfare. You lose your job.
Which is what I actually feel like what most people do is they just assume that the person that they left is like having the worst life of all time.
You have to. Because if you have the thought process that it's better, it's going to crush you.
I almost, this is going to sound really bad. This is going to sound pretty awful, but I almost treat it as a way of like, okay, I like them enough to talk to them. I did not like them enough to date them or like have a serious relationship with them. But who would know better than who to set me up with than people that I've been with, and like maybe they have a friend recommendation.
That's an incredibly disrespectful thing to ask.
Maybe they have a
sorry, we didn't work out, but do you have like a hotter, more attractive and sociable friend that I would be a better fit with? You didn't cut it, but I'm sure you know somebody that would.
This is probably why I'm single, Joe.
But regardless, though, we get to Fifth Ave. That's kind of where, I don't want to say it started going downhill, but that's where the ominous sort of that creeping feeling of impending doom started sinking in. And I'll tell from my perspective.
Adversity.
Yeah, it was definitely adversity. But from my perspective, me and Chris were in line. We were trying to get upstairs. It was a massive line. And there were several different times to where while Chris was waiting in line, I was with him. I was like, I'm going to go to the bathroom real quick. I'll meet up with you in a little bit. I come back. Chris is saying, I got to go get some beers. You wait in line. I'll be back. And so I'm waiting for Chris. And by the time I get to the front of the line, it was what felt like 20 minutes later. So I'm just ushering people upstairs. I'm waiting as long as I can. Go. I'm waiting for my buddy. And it got to the point where the bouncer was like, you're going upstairs or you're getting out of this line. I can't have you hanging around. So in my mind, I was like, Chris maybe is further back in line, or he's already upstairs and he just forgot that I was still in line. So I'm going to go upstairs and hopefully link up shortly. Right. I get upstairs, not very adventurous when I'm by myself. I take 2 paces in and I realize I'm fucked.
Yeah, and again, we'll repeat this by saying, when the real season comes out is when we're going to really dive deeper into Joe's
My history.
Ability. We're going to say
Yeah.
ability. We're not going to say disability.
Facts.
We're going to say ability.
Mhm.
Because you have an ability that I don't
Dude,
have. And I have an ability that you don't have.
True.
We both have abilities that each other don't have, which is not normal in the human world.
Yeah. You combine us, we'd be the perfect human.
We are the perfect human when you combine us.
Yeah.
But yes, my perspective was, it was like right when we got there. It wasn't like we were going back and forth. It was like, we want to go upstairs. Joe off rip, which you guys already know this. Joe's a pisser. So Joe off rip was like, I'm going to go to the bathroom. And I was like, oh, I just went. So Joe goes to the bathroom. By the time Joe was through the line and out of the line, it was about 25, 30 minutes, which at that point, I remember making the mental decision. I ran into a bunch of people I know. That was when I ran into one of my old flames. But I remember walking back, and I was like, through a crowd of people. You're bumping into everybody, but
I was?
No, both of us, dude. It was just so packed there that you have to like plow through people to get through the lines. But I remember I'm plowing through, Joe's plowing through, and I see him for the first time in a while after you went pissed.
Yeah.
And I see you, and I go, I got you a beer. Here's your beer. And then you keep walking.
Which was clutch.
And I was like, I got you a beer. I'm going to go pee. I'll meet you back over by the line. Well, Joe went upstairs. I went back. The line was like a half hour in my brain. In my brain, it was a half hour long. I'm like, there's no way.
It definitely wasn't, though. Time was distorted. We were on that planet in Interstellar, where the water planet, where every minute feels like an hour. Mm-hmm. And I know this is fact, kind of fast forwarding, because when we got outside, it was still daylight outside and like 2 hours had passed. And when I was like, I was in there for 8 hours. I was lost for a day.
That is how it felt like. But in the moment, it was about, I was like, there's no way Joe sat through a 45-minute line to go upstairs. So I ruled out Joe being upstairs immediately. I immediately was like, there's no way Joe's upstairs. I'm not even checking up there. He's either, and I did 3 laps around the first floor. I was talking to all these people. Like, I'm all these girls I used to talk to are like talking to me and filling me in or just catching up. But I'm over here like, have you seen my friend Joe? Like, have you seen Joe? I lost him, and he can't see, so I don't know if he left and he went to another bar. His phone, The last text I had too is, my phone's dying right now. Come find me. Like, we need to find each other. He did not say upstairs. Yeah. I did not know.
Well, I wasn't upstairs at that point. I was trying to usher you back to the line. So Chris doesn't know this, but I guess like general rule, if I'm ever with somebody and I get separated and I don't have a phone to communicate, I am of the thinking I should say exactly where they saw me last. Because that makes the most sense.
Yeah, but you were not where I saw you last.
I could not be there last. So, another thing that happened, because my phone was dying, I shot him a text that said, I'm by the aquarium upstairs, come find me. And then probably as soon as I hit send, it died. So it never went through. Yeah. And then I'm upstairs just standing there for like 30 minutes. It really wasn't that bad because I had the cores that he got me. I was just kicking it. But it got to the point where I was like, damn, I don't even know if they're here anymore. So I just went up to the bartender and I showed her my ID and I was like, I'm blind, plug in my phone. And then she plugged it in for like 5 minutes and she brought it back to me. And I texted Marissa and I texted Chris and I was like, yo, I'm upstairs by the aquarium. Is anyone still here? And then Chris and Braden finally came back up and found me.
Which, from my perspective, was 3 laps on the first floor, waiting in line again because I knew our friend was getting there, and I was like, I lost Joe. Like, what do you think we should do? Because I thought you had potentially gone to go visit them at another bar, or like go see them at another bar. And I was like, is he at here? Is he there? I don't know. I have no clue.
I'm not that adventurous.
I was very overthinking probably, but eventually we find Joe, and pretty much after we saw you, we went to one more bar so I could see the final gauntlet of the old flame journey.
Completed it.
And then we went to Detroit, which we should have just went home.
We should have. But the last thing I remember is the Uber ride there, pretty much, where Chris was just berating the Uber driver. The guy was like, nah, I don't really want to give you guys aux. And Chris was like, come on, man, do it. Let me have it.
Why would you... It would be a better experience for everybody if you gave us all.
No, I agree. Like if they're not compliant though, sometimes you just got to give them the room and just be like, all right, man, ride down. But it was a confrontational Uber ride. We get there, we're chilling at, I forget the name of the place, someplace in Detroit where they have like board games and stuff. You get some tokens for beer. It's called the Corner.
Yeah.
And we're chilling there for a while. Me and Chris are just talking life, talking shop, waiting for some bays to meet up with us. And that's pretty much where my memory of the night ends.
Yeah, and I mean,
I
we
have some
had a
fades here
friend
and there.
there. We had a friend there that was sober driving us back and drove us back. And I mean, it was an interesting Uber back. I honestly, I was okay the whole day. I was actually proud of myself. I did feel like shit the next day, but
Yeah.
I was pretty proud of myself. And the Uber back, man, it's just a classic.
Wasn't even an Uber. It was my boy.
That's what I'm saying. It was a sober
Mhm.
friend that we had, and
Yeah.
took us back. And I mean, when we got back, I typically would get an Uber pool. I get dropped off. I don't get to see Joe once he gets back to his place. I mean, I have in college, but not
It's
recently.
never good when I get back.
And when this guy got back, because I went back to his place and I Ubered from his place back to mine. And when this guy got back, it was like me and his girlfriend just trying to like care for a homeless person. Almost.
No.
I won't say homeless person. It was just Joe not listening to us at all. And like you immediately like went down, laid in bed, went to sleep. And I was like, okay, cool. Joe's out. I'll see him next week, whatever.
But then I had business to attend to.
Yeah. And then this guy's out in the bathroom, locks the door, and it's like, come on, man. We just want to make sure you're okay. You're alive.
You guys were assuming the worst, but I honestly, it was a long day. I went in there to meditate. I went in there to reflect upon the day. And
went
it was
in
bad.
there to transform to a better being.
It was bad.
You wanted to come out of that bathroom as a different soul.
You're not wrong. Can I say one more thing?
Yeah.
So, essentially, I did not remember a lot of the night, but I did wake up to some videos that I had taken. We good?
Yeah, I'm just.
But now I woke up to some videos that I didn't even take, that people were taking of me on my phone on the way back to the car. And there was one of me standing like I was about to run the 40-yard dash on an intersection in Detroit. And you guys were kind of egging me on because I heard somebody in the video go, it's green. And then I just shot off like a cannon and sprinted across this intersection. And then the next one was me just kind of like skipping back and forth on the sidewalk. It wasn't good. It's all bad news. Nothing of what happened that night was good. So spiraled me into like a deep pit of despair for the rest of the week. But it's, again, adversity. You got to overcome it.
Hey, that's what we're about, man.
Yeah.
We're about overcoming adversity.
Like you were saying, deep pit of despair, often foreshadowing death. Trying to think of a segue here. So you die and then...
Here's what I'll say is Joe went into the day as Joe and came out of the day as Joe, but a different version of Joe.
Much worse.
A much worse.
A shell of a man. If you will.
I remember texting Joe the next day, just like, you're getting your first text back at like 11:30, 12, and you're like,
yeah,
I know this guy's down bad. It's like, I feel so bad for him. But
and the girl, I left my Thinking Beers hat in the girlfriend of the guy.
Did you?
His car that drove us home.
Yeah.
She came over and like dropped it off while Marissa was gone. She just drops it off and she's like, I'm here. I come down and I just grab the hat and I was like, my bad. Appreciate you guys being cool. Sorry about that.
Yeah.
Gotta play it off.
Yo, there's a, not to derail us here, but there's a cop car outside that says auxiliary police. What is that different from normal police?
It's like a normal cop that just plays Babytron on Aux.
Yeah, it's the cop that plays aux for all the other cops.
When you arrest somebody, you can link up while you're in the back seat.
Yeah, Ant Me. Remember when everyone's playing the same? Like you get to pick your song and
yeah.
He's just Ant Me all the cars.
Yeah,
that'd be so funny. But no, we are very excited for this next segment. It's the thumbnail of the video. This is something we've been excited to do for a while. We were just waiting to introduce it, to be honest. But reincarnation,
right,
is a topic I love. I'm very, I would say, passionate about. Passionate enough where I would argue that this is the first thing that I've used for my degree at school since we graduated. I didn't really use
it.
What?
How have you used reincarnation?
I'm using my degree. Like this was so
general management degree.
Let me backtrack a second for chat. Let me get you guys tapped into. Essentially, chat, first segment of the video. This is gonna be the thumbnail. This is gonna be like our main focus of today is reincarnation. And what I will say is that where this idea came from. I had a class in college called Death and Dying. Now, at the time, it wasn't my favorite class. Right now, it's one of my favorite memories or class memories through college. But what I will say is this is probably the first time I'm actually using my degree, actually using a piece of work that I put together through my degree outside of school. So I thought that was kind of fascinating. But we're going to talk about a case study, a paper that I wrote. We're going to talk about key points from the paper that I wrote, and we're going to get Joe's thoughts on it. I'm very, very excited for this segment, though. I love reincarnation. I love the thought process of it. Now, just so everybody knows, the definition of reincarnation is the rebirth of a soul into a new body. That is the definition of reincarnation. Where we're going to talk about a case study.
Much like me last Saturday.
Exactly. Joe's rebirth into a new soul came Sunday.
Same soul,
Saturday,
worse body, much fatter body, much much more health detriments. No, but like Chris was saying, I could hear it from the other room where I was checking my stocks. But this is something we've discussed a lot. We're both very open-minded, I would say. We like to explore possibilities. As anybody in their mid-20s, there's no definitive answer for what happens. So we like to explore. I also took Death and Dying. It's mind-opening, right? There's so many different theories, so many different cultures have created, hypothesis of what happens to you after you die.
Yeah.
And it's impossible to rule anything out because of the reason that there's no exact answer. So we don't subscribe to any theory. This is going to be more so just a walkthrough of a possibility.
Yeah, this is a paper that I wrote in college. It was a case study of a boy named Nazi X. Nazi Aldanov.
Gonna take my
Lil Nas, you could say. He was very little when this happened, but it's a case study I wrote where I essentially, it was required for the course, but I wrote a case study. I compared that case study to other case studies, and I go through the detail of the case study and the examples of reincarnation that essentially present itself throughout the case. So this segment is going to be me essentially reading the key points of my paper that I wrote back in college to Joe, and then having him respond to it, interject. I told him, cut me off when you want to, interject when you want to. But I'm excited to talk about this. Something I'm kind of passionate about. I feel good about.
Yeah, I'm vaguely familiar with the story. I think I read it on like a article somewhere, like probably just saw it on Twitter, whatever it might be. But I know the baseline details. I'm excited to learn more about it.
Yeah.
And me, just generally, I'm pretty skeptical. So I hate to be that guy that's like, yeah, okay, but we'll see how it goes.
Yeah.
This dumbass 3-year-old.
That's why I like this story, because I do feel like it's hard to argue with. It's hard to disagree with when this is facts. This is factual. So story starts again. I said Nazi Aldanov. That's the star, the main character of the story, of a story, case study, of a real life actual event. And this was a boy from Lebanon. I don't know where Lebanon's at.
I think that's a Call of Duty map.
Yeah, I think it is too. But
no, I think it's a country. It's pretty close to Turkey. I think it's close to the Middle East.
Okay. So Nazi Aldanov is born essentially when he begins to talk.
It's a natural progression to being reincarnated.
When he begins to talk, he's about 1.5, 2 years old.
Seems early.
It did. That's what I thought too. I thought it was a little bit early. He begins talking, and you want to know the first things he started saying. He said,
"Tell me."
Yeah, this is where I love this whole case study. So he goes, his mom is the one that reports this stuff. But at the age of 1.5, he starts saying, I am not small, I am big.
I say that constantly.
Well, hold on. He goes, I'm not small, I'm big. I carry two pistols and I carry 4 hand grenades. Do not worry about the hand grenades. Do not worry about the weapons. I know how to handle these weapons. This guy is 1.5.
That's crazy.
1.5. I can't remember anything from when I was 1.5.
Wait, real quick, I guess baseline to set. What year was this? So he's 1.5.
I should have known this. I think it was like 50s, 60s, 70s.
So it was a while ago.
It was a long time ago.
Okay.
Yeah, it was a long time ago. So essentially his first questionable things he was saying was when he was 1.5.
That also sucks for the parents. What were your kid's first words? Oh, he said he has 2 Glock 9s and the titty mag.
and I'll get into that. That's part of the reason that reincarnation isn't as famous as it is because moms and mothers are scared that they're going to lose their kid.
Yeah.
They're scared that their kids won.
They just give their kid
how am I going to go tell the public I'm worried about my 1-year-old son because he's telling me he has hand grenades? Like, I get it. I get it from a mother's perspective. You don't want to lose your kid.
Yeah.
You don't want to, he's from another family is what he's telling you. But anyways, he's 1.5. He starts saying these weird things. And I mean, there's no way I was saying I carry 2 pistols and 4 hand grenades and I know how to use them. And don't worry about me talking about this. I know how to use them.
I don't know when's normal. I feel like I started talking when I was like 3. To be saying hand grenade when you're 1.5?
I think it's normal 2.5. Right. The story goes on to later.
We might be talking as like mentally challenged people, but
he starts. The story does go on where he's like 6'7". 6'7". Have you ever seen those edits? 6'7". It's so funny. if you edit 6'7". But anyways, the story goes on and fast forward. I'm skipping ahead of myself, but when he's 7, 8 years old, he is smoking cigarettes and drinking and like way ahead of where he should be.
Well, that's just bad parenting.
You can say that, but he wanted to. He was like, I want to do this. He was going out.
A lot of kids want to do a lot of stuff.
But anyways, fast forward from 1.5, where he starts saying these things, and his mom is like, "What are you talking about?" 4 years old. So this is 2.5 years later.
Yep.
And him and his mom, I don't know, we're just going to call him Mama Nazi.
Mama Nazi.
Perfect. Mama Nazi and Nazi are walking down the street in Lebanon. It's a normal rural city. For some reason, when I picture this, I picture it as like Rome. I know it's not even close to what it looked like. It was like farmland area. But they're walking down the street, and Nazi's 4 years old, and he looks across the street. And he looks and he goes, "That's my wife. That's my wife. My wife is right there. That's my house. I used to live there." And they're walking on the street. And then, of course, Nazi is like, "We need to go there. I need to go see that. I know this place. I've been here before. I recognize this." And he walks up to the house and he walks up to his old wife. And his old wife, her name, I should say, was, it is hard to pronounce. It's Najdiyah.
Najdiyah. Yeah, we'll call her Stacy.
Yeah, we'll call her Stacy. His old wife, Stacy.
Smoke show.
Well, actually, let's call her Nadia. Nadia is probably the closest.
Nadia is fair.
Nadia is probably the closest.
Just absolute Nadia. Bombshell.
That's how I
hot
picture
as hell.
her.
Yeah, she's got to be hot.
I do remember. I don't know the exact age, but I do remember her being younger. You got to think back in those days.
Dude, you can't say that after.
What?
So she was hot as fuck.
Well, I mean, like 25, 30.
Perfect.
25,
nice.
30.
Nice.
I thought, when I think mom, I think 40 plus. So, like, when I say the story, I wanted to say.
Back then, though, you were having kids early because you were dying soon.
Yes. So
he was probably at 7 about to be like, damn, I got to start thinking about having kids.
Yeah, right.
When am I going to settle down and stop fucking around?
So, him, Nazi, and his mom, Mama Nazi, are walking down the street. And he sees this beautiful woman.
Did they approach them?
Yeah. So, they see this beautiful woman. And Nazi's like, "That's my wife. I know her. We need to go talk to her." He's begging his mom to go talk to her. They go across the street. They talk to her.
This kid was just horny. I got to go talk to this girl now.
So they go talk to her. The first thing he says is, "Will you marry me?"
Nice.
He's 4 years old.
Nice.
She's 20, let's say 29.
Good for him.
Probably 29, 30. That's the first thing that comes out of his mouth is, "Will you marry me? You're the love of my life. You've always been the love of my life." He's 4 years old.
Yeah.
After that, he explains how he knows her and why he wants to marry her is because they've already been married.
This 4-year-old gets an explanation.
Nazi's old self, his name was Fouad. Yeah. We're going to go with that name. What was wrong with it? So it's Nadia's his old wife. Nazi's his name. We got Nazi Mama or Mama Nazi.
And
we got Fouad. Those are the names to remember in this story. But essentially, they go up and he's making these claims. He's asking her to marry him. And she's going, you need to prove this to me. Yeah, I don't believe you.
Why would you entertain this with a child?
You're 4 years old. I don't understand it. Well, it would be kind of crazy for a 4-year-old to come up to you while you're gardening and he's like, will you marry me? Like, I love you. I've always loved you. Will you marry me? That would be
punt him 30 yards away and be like, get out, you dumbass.
Yeah, but I'd be like, what's making you say this? I would ask that question.
You would say that to a 4-year-old?
Yeah, I'd be like, why
No,
me?
that would be incredibly creepy and weird.
So, long story short, she starts asking him a lot of questions. He's like, I know you. I know this place, and I've been to this house before. I recognize all of it. And the questions that get brought up at the beginning, I guess he brings up primarily when they were going to cross a border. I don't know what border it was, but they were traveling with their young daughter.
That would never happen in Trump's America.
And they're traveling, and the story, I don't know all the details, but essentially they got to the border. Their car was like breaking down. And the Border Patrol officers or the military, whoever's in charge there, actually helped them fix their car. They like engineered their car, mechanic their car back
they just souped it up
back to life.
Like a LA Customs.
Yeah.
It's got like a spoiler on it now, and it's like 24-inch rims lifted. It's like, hey, this is supercharged now, Holmes.
Yeah. And but he brought it up. So she was like, what happened to us when we were trying to go here? And he was like, oh, we got to the border. The Border Patrol officers fixed our car. Our daughter was crying, but she got better once we got through. It also got brought up a lot. He described his death to her in a good amount of detail.
How did he die?
I don't know who necessarily attacked them, but this is how you can tell it's from a long time ago. He was with his mute friend.
Classic.
Who could not speak, who was in their house, and they got raided by like old military or like old, I don't know if it was on their side, on another side, but essentially they got raided. Grenades, boom, blew off.
That would suck ass if somebody was throwing grenades at your crib and you couldn't be like, you're like, help, but it was just like,
it's just, yeah.
Shit.
Yeah. But it was
That's
like
tough.
his best friend. His best friend was mute, and they
That's
talked
tough.
about him a lot, which I also thought was an interesting detail. Like, how many people have mute friends? And then if you're reincarnated, you're like, yeah, my best friend was mute. And you're talking to your old wife, she's like, yeah, that's actually, yeah, he's right about that.
Yeah,
so,
I mean, that's a bold guess.
He tells this story about that. And then, it was essentially just, there was a lot of gunshots, there was a lot of fire, there was a lot of grenades. It was a big ordeal. I'm pretty sure their house like almost burned down, or it was like their house was like gone when he had passed away. Like, that's how he died.
Damn.
So that's initially how they meet. And the mom or his old wife, Nadia, is very curious, very, he had a lot of things to say that made her
very relevant. Yeah.
Yes. Made her want to, let me sit him down. Let me ask him things that only Fowd, my old husband, would know.
That is so bizarre. Could you imagine being in that situation where this kid knows everything about my life and he might be my husband, but he's also 4 and he's not even that cute?
That's exactly what I was thinking. If you're the wife, there's no good thing you can do.
Well, sorry, Chad. Sorry if that's odd. We're dealing. Hey, we used to have the twist offs. We're dealing with some cans here. There's only so much I can do. But yeah, no, that's incredibly. That must have been like very shocking and bizarre for her.
Right. It's one of those things that happens.
So you're telling me my husband's living in this child's body right now?
Right. So eventually,
well, that was a good
they decide to meet back up, and
second
date, and she's like, Nadia's like, I'm gonna be more prepared for this date with Nazi, who could be my old husband Fowd.
She got all hot.
I don't know about that. I didn't hear details of that, but she came prepared with questions.
Okay.
She came prepared with a lot of things to ask him about, a lot of things to talk through with him.
Mm-hmm.
She had asked him questions like, what was our daughter sick with, and how did she get sick?
And he knew?
Yes. Details of their house.
Do you remember the sickness at all?
No, I don't remember the sickness.
I would assume, regardless of what it was, as a 4-year-old, the term for it probably was out of his vocabulary.
Yeah.
Which would probably be a flag right there, right? Like he's probably telling the truth. Because like at the bare minimum, say it was like tuberculosis or like something like that. How would he even know the word for that?
Right. That's a
Unless they
big.
lived in the backwoods, it was probably like, yeah, the yeah, the
Right.
death sentence.
That
What's
was
it
a
called?
big where my mind really gravitated to this case study too was I don't see how he would have even known the word grenade and handgun and pistol at the age of 1.5, 2.
Could have been relevant just to the area. Playing
That's
devil's
valid.
advocate,
That's
like I
valid. That's
mean, if
valid.
people were really raiding houses
We're
and
in
throwing fucking
war.
frags like
Yeah.
at people's houses, like
Yeah.
it could have just been part of like the vernacular. Because you know how kids, you see videos of kids all the time being like,
Yeah.
"Fuck," and like the
Yeah.
parents are like, "Oh, how do you know that?" You know what
And
I
it's
mean?
from them
Kids
saying
pick
it.
up
Yeah.
on stuff like very quickly. Just
Which
playing devil's advocate, but
I will give you. But yeah, when the meet up the second date, they go over questions of how did our daughter get sick,
second
what
day,
happened to her.
it's so funny.
They go over what were some details of our house, what did our bedroom look like, what colors were the walls, gets those right. They also
Well,
go
their walls are
into
probably mud colored. I'm sure
he
they lived in
tells
huts.
he tells her that he remembers a story, and this second date was also at their house that they used to
Mm.
live at together and be married at. And he goes back there and he's talking about this experience that they had where he was teaching her how to use a gun, how to use a pistol. And
Mm.
he was teaching her in their front yard. He even takes her to the front yard and says, it was right behind this tree. I put a barrel right here. You used to shoot at this barrel.
Mm.
And I remember teaching you for days and days on how to shoot a gun. There was many other questions. So the facts of the case are that she had asked him 23 questions that were essentially, do you know this? Can you get this right or wrong questions?
Michael Jordan.
Out of the 23, he got 17 correct, and one of them was proven false. 5 of them were inconclusive, where he gave an answer that was
So that puts you at 11 completely correct.
no, 17.
Well, wait.
17 out of 23 correct.
Oh, so you're saying out of the other 6,
Right.
one of them was incorrect and the other 5 were inconclusive.
Right.
Oh, I got you.
So only one of the facts were proven false. I believe, I don't quote me on this. I believe it was like, what color was our car, or what color was our bike that we had for our daughter? And he said red, and it was like purple or something.
It's pretty close. I could see him mixing that up.
I agree. So that's essentially the whole case study. I found it very fascinating. I did find it. It was one of the only things in college I did where I was like, I'm enjoying doing this. I'm enjoying writing about it, learning about it. I did compare it to other case studies. I found that this was the first case study that really didn't have a lot of holes, didn't have a lot of flaws, didn't have a lot of things that you could like say, oh, well, he could do this because of that, or you could remember this because of this.
Well, can I propose one?
Yeah.
They lived in a very poor area of probably a pretty poor country, from what I'm assuming. And maybe they all linked up and saw this as a way to where they could get media attention or get paid to do interviews or something like that to get some money out of it. That would be my
but
like.
You think he was thinking that at 1.5?
No,
years
but
old?
the mother and this lady for sure.
I guess, but
Because so you're saying
that,
if they met up and just the mother was like, feeding him some information, there's definitely a way that where they could fabricate this to kind of make themselves famous or find a way to make money off of it.
and I agree with that. I don't think
Especially if they're incredibly poor.
I don't think that people in we'll say this is 30s, 40s, 1930s, 40s, like I don't think they were too concerned about getting media famous.
But like, I don't know. I feel like that's exactly when they would at like the peak of it. I mean, back in those days, it was way easier to do that and fabricate these stories in a way to where people would believe it, and you would get national media attention, get paid to have appearances on these, shows or magazines, get interviewed, whatever it might be, and that could literally pull a family out of poverty. I'm not saying I don't believe it. I'm just saying if I were going to see the other side of it, there is definitely a world, and which that's the case.
You would fabricate it so that you could get famous. I just think it would be much, much harder to get famous off of something like that
than to be reincarnated
in the time period that it occurred in. Like I think this occurred so long ago that it was like, okay, even if I tell people this and I act like this is what happened, maybe 10 people know.
Yeah.
You know, that's the way I looked at it.
Probably garners a lot of attention though.
True.
I mean, not to get into all that, but like a lot of like, I mean, like dictators or like historical figures or like religious figures or whatever it might be, they fabricated stories and all of that to garner attention or garner respect. And like those stories spread quickly back then. Think about the grand scheme of things. I mean, I guess 1950 is a lot different, but there was still so much less cool shit happening. Like with nothing happening, if you heard a story about a 4-year-old that was reincarnated, you're going to listen. And like people are going to be willing to hear that. So it would spread fast. I mean, that's my devil's advocate to the thing, but I'm not saying I don't believe it because I think the whole thing is fascinating.
Yeah. And that's where at the end of the day, it's just so fascinating to me. It's like, even let's just put everything aside. Let's put all beliefs and religions and everything aside. Someone being born who is going to immediately, when they first start talking, mention things of their past or mention items of their past. And it's fascinating. It blows my mind that like that early on he started saying things and his mom was like, this is weird. And then eventually it got to the point where it was like, okay, oh my, I just ran into my wife. I just ran into her. And then it's all there. It spirals and it rolls. And I said this earlier, but I think reincarnation would be a lot more popular than it is if moms weren't scared of losing their kid because they got reincarnated.
Well, don't you think if reincarnation happened in that way, it's where you remembered everything, we would hear about it more? Because a kid wouldn't suppress that forever. They would still have those memories when they turned legal age or wherever they got to a point where they could talk about it. It's not like you would just forget about it. If it was like truly an ingrained thing.
You're heavily influenced by the people that raise you. And if the people that raise you
told you were crazy for thinking that was true, and so you just suppress it.
Exactly.
But even still,
the
like
years
therapy
of 0
is such...
to 5, you're gonna listen to what your mom has to say. Like, oh, there's no way that happened. You don't know what a grenade is, and then all of a sudden you're like,
loser, you have no idea what a grenade is. Dumbass.
So, I mean, we could take so many tangents off of this, but at the end of the day, what I feel is that, and this was a line that I had in my paper too, which I loved, was after examining and analyzing this case study, as well as comparing it to other case studies of the similar, it is impossible to rule out reincarnation as a possibility of death.
Mm-hmm.
Or of life after death, I should say.
That's a run-on sentence. What grade did you get on this?
I did. I almost wanted to look back and be like, what did I get? When I was rereading this paper, I realized I like had so many spelling errors, had so many just like random sentences that were thrown in there. Like,
no, it's a good paper. It's a good paper with a lot of research. Do you want to hear my theory on reincarnation?
I do.
So I have thought about this for a while. I feel like I've believed this since like early high school or something, but in my mind, if reincarnation was real, I view it in a way to where I'm living this life, and then when I die, I am basically not confronted, but consulted by an omnipotent being.
What does omnipotent mean?
Omnipotent means like all presence, right? Like it means like God would be omnipotent.
He lives
it's
through
like
all generations.
Yeah, like it can see every moment of every space, anywhere, like in a second, basically. Like it's all present and all knowing. So I basically get confronted by this being, and it essentially questions me on, what did you learn? What has this life taught you? Yeah. What can you take away from it, and what can you do better on? And then I go back and I live another life, right? So, long story short, I think that like if reincarnation was a thing, I like to think of the theory that it's me, not like me as in this body, but my consciousness. I'm living in every single person's life of all time, and I experience every human being's life ever. So I know what it feels like to be the poorest of the poor, the richest of the rich, the worst of the worst, and the best of the best. So I know the human condition from front to back. And then once I complete that journey, I go back to that omnipotent being, and I'm like, I know what it takes. And then essentially in my mind, there's a series of those beings that control different universes, or like they see over them. And once you reach that point, you oversee them.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
Like you reach the point of being like an all-knowing being because you have experienced existence to the highest degree.
Yeah.
Do you see what I'm saying with that?
I agree with, we'll say 75% of it. 75% of what you just said.
Fair.
My main thoughts on reincarnation is that it's what I want to believe. It's not what I believe. It's
really?
What I want to believe.
Okay.
Because of that reason. It's like you live one life, which makes me beg to ask the question, this is my first life. Chat, tell me how many lives you've lived.
Yeah.
This is my
You guys have any of these stories?
This is my first one, but I would love to live under the assumption that I'm living this life and I'm going to live another life, but I'm going to be able to carry over the lessons learned from my prior life, and I'm going to be able to implement this and live a better life my second time around.
You think so?
I mean, it's kind of gets sad and depressing if you think that, like, I'm going to think that way, and then you're fine. I'm going to think that way, and then I'm going to die, and then eventually I'm going to never live that better enhanced life. But that is how I think about it. That is what I
think that's a good thing to believe in, though, because it gives you anything that anybody believes in, where it gives them something to strive towards, or like something to be looking forward to. I will never take that away. That's
the main takeaway from that death and dying class and from this whole segment is, no matter the religion, no matter the belief of life after death, or life after, I guess life after death, but no matter the belief, at the end of the day, what I learned from that class was every religion, every belief should be a good human being.
Right.
And good things will happen to you.
Yeah.
You know, maybe you won't be reincarnated as a squirrel. Maybe you'll be an alligator because
that'd be that much better.
You did a couple good things. I'd much rather be an alligator
than a squirrel.
No, I prefer to be reincarnated as a human being.
Yeah.
And kind of relive my life, but have the knowledge that I have.
So. I used to very definitively believe in almost like an offshoot of simulation theory, where, you know how obviously I have no idea, even looking at you right now, I don't know what's going on in your brain. I don't know if we have the same concept of consciousness. I don't know if you look at the wall and you see the same thing as me.
Right.
But like, there's always the possibility it's where we look at that and our definition of one thing is the same, even though we're perceiving something entirely different.
Yeah.
So I used to have the theory that this existence in this world was entirely created for me, and I'm in some sort of computer simulation, and I will be living it out for somebody to study it for me.
You know where we'll leave it, Joe? This is where we'll leave it. Is we need to have an episode in the future that's discussing what we want and what we think will happen to us after we pass away.
Yikes. We'll have to confront our own morality.
Yeah, we will.
Or mortality, I mean.
Yeah, because I think there's so much more to be said. Deep. And this episode could be 3 hours if we keep talking about this, because I could go on forever.
It definitely could. And I feel like we've been talking about a lot. But, I mean, this is just a thought starter, right? Like, I'm open to any possibility. I think the most abysmal thing that you could believe in is nothing, and that we're all just, you know, biomatter that somehow having to gain consciousness that's fucking walking around this planet. That I think that there's no reason in believing that's the case.
Yeah,
because
I agree with that.
It's very pretentious. I don't want to dog on anybody's beliefs, but it's like almost like pretentious, and it's like, oh, I believe in science, and like we just happen to gain consciousness over years of evolution. Because why wouldn't you believe in some greater thing that gives us like a moral compass or something after you die? Because if nothing else, it makes life valuable.
Yep. And speaking of a greater thing, a greater being, a greater existence that's out there, our next segment, a classic segment you guys love, Digesting Quora.
Boom.
And
it's back,
we got some
baby.
we got some good ones this time.
Two of my favorite ones.
Yeah, these are some good questions. I'm excited about it. So the first question of Digesting Quora is, do you still, and we got a perfect example of Joe right here sitting in this beautiful It's actually gotten sunny since the podcast has started. I feel like when it started, it was kind of
soaking wet,
rainy.
It's a million
but
degrees.
the main question is, do you still acquire vitamin D through a window?
Mm-hmm.
So where we're sitting right now, man, those clouds are moving. But where we're sitting right now, are we getting vitamin D?
It goes into such like a larger question though, and I just had this debate with my manager. It's a classic question.
You just talked about this with your manager?
Not this exactly, but more so the fact that I think space might not be real. None of it makes sense. How does sunlight travel here? And Earth is so far away and such an, it's like a tiny speck away from the sun. How are we capturing so much of its sunlight? Yeah. And how are we retaining so much of it to the point to where people can get a tan or whatever it might be? Right. But even regardless, so we're talking like particles, molecules, atoms, all that stuff. How is the sun even getting through this? I mean,
atmosphere.
It's pretty solid. How the hell is sun particles getting through that and getting into here? Like, okay, so back to Chris's question. If you laid in bed, let's say, well, a lot of people do. If you're bedridden or whatever it might be, if you lay in there for a year. A lot of people
do lay in bed.
Yeah. No, I'm talking like if you're bedridden or like if you're in a coma or something like that, like, are you coming away with enough of like the sun's nutrients to keep you healthy? And if so, how is that passing through this very thick surface?
Thick window.
Yeah. How do the particles get through it? I mean, I don't even understand glass. How does glass work? It's perfectly see-through. And you're telling me you can just burn a pile of sand and it turns into fucking glass?
Yeah, I don't.
There's no way
either. I probably will start understanding glass. I'm in construction. If you guys didn't know, and I'm learning about all the trades, but probably will start to learn more on how that works. But at the end of the day, man, I had even asked this and got a second opinion because I was like, I don't know what
on this question
my thoughts are. Yeah, I got a second opinion. It's a friend at the gym, and I was like, they're like, obviously you do. Obviously you do suck in.
Why? How's that obvious?
Their main argument was, and you would know this being in logistics, their main reason was truck drivers that drive down the street, that drive all day long. Have you ever seen their faces? They get super sunburnt on the left side of their face, but they don't get sunburnt on the right side of their face.
I understand the result, but how does it
only come
happen?
Through there? I don't understand how it gets through. So I could understand how light gets through because it's clear and you can kind of
but light is literally particles.
I don't understand how. That's what I'm saying. Is light is literally particles.
So like
vitamin D also particles?
Yeah, it is.
So it can just seep on through this glass and get right to us.
I guess.
I don't. That doesn't make sense to me, dude.
No,
it doesn't make sense. It should just bounce off the window and just fall to the ground.
Either way, so like it's a vitamin. Yeah. How is that coming from the sun and my senses absorbing that? It makes no sense.
I do feel so much better in the sun though. When I am getting these vitamins.
Yeah, let me propose one question to you right now. So, same kind of like theory as this, right? Like if you were, this is kind of like an outlandish question, but picture a submarine where the entire overhead of it was just a window. And you're in the ocean, probably, nothing crazy, like 1,000 feet down. That still has a direct line for the sunlight to hit you.
But it's water and glass.
So, but what's the difference between water and glass? They're both clear.
What's the difference between water and glass?
They're both clear. So discuss that for 1 second. I'm going to go make one more business call.
Dude, I'm going to have to make a business call soon. I think it's time for us to get into the next question. I think we discussed that question enough. This is going to be a long episode, chat. This is going to be a long episode. And I'll get to the middle for you guys. But the next question here is, why do horses let us ride on their back? Is it just because they're stupid? I'm going to let that one sink in for just 1 second. Just 1 second, you know? And what I will say is that I do have some thoughts on this. I do feel that this could be a big topic. You can't forget about camels when you're talking about this. Joe and I have digressed prior to the pod. We do think that camels are just stupid horses. So with that being said, I think that begs the question. I'm actually going to let Joe kind of intro this one while I'm going to go fix my socks as well.
Camels are retarded horses. So the theory behind this is any other animal, and I've tried before, you mostly as a child, you cannot get on a dog's back and just ride it around. It'll get increasingly angry. It'll try everything it can to get you off of it. Horses are the only one that are submissive enough to let you do that, and they're constantly around humans. They should know what it takes to get you off of them. They can obviously strike you with their hooves, and I know they will if you're staying behind them and they feel threatened. But for the most part, if people 500, 600 years ago could get on top of them and ride them around, they clearly have a low level of intelligence. So I think that if nothing else, we should be questioning how smart are horses. They were carrying around our carriages, our buggies, whatever you want to call it, and they were transporting us for miles on end to no gain of their own. So if I had to choose the stupidest animal alive, it'd be a horse. But on the inverse of that, the fastest animal alive or the strongest animal, they would have a case there because most horses are jacked and they tend to go very fast and they look muscular and they look very cool. So either they're very dumb or they just like to, what do I want to say? They want us to compliment them. They want us to look at them and say, oh, you're doing a really good job, horse. You're so fast and you look so pretty. So they do anything they can to get that praise from us. Maybe they're just very like emotionally distressed or they have very low opinions of themselves. And that's why they like being show ponies because they like getting dressed up and paraded around so everybody will compliment them. That might actually be the answer.
What? Tell me.
That horses just have a low opinion of themselves, and that's why they like doing horse shows, and that's why they like letting people ride them because they want people to be like, "Oh, good job, buddy! Like you're a good guy." Like,
which was also my kind of point for this was, is it their job? We have jobs. We have to work a job and
yeah, but they don't get paid.
We get paid, but what do they get paid in? They get treated. They get cared for. They get hay. They get food.
Mm-hmm.
They get essentially a place to live. So essentially, they're working for a place to live, food, and
but they're too dumb to even understand that.
This is what we think.
I think they might just be like very vain. They might be incredibly vain and just be like, oh, if I let this guy on my back, he's going to tell me I'm a super strong guy.
I think it's crazy that horses let us ride on their backs. It is wild with camels too. But I think that it's their job.
Well, camels are just dumb as fuck. And they look stupid as hell.
Which I agree with. But I think that horses do it because they think that this is a way to get a job. This is a way to get employment where I can get paid via a place to stay, a place to, or food to eat, and a human that's going to care for me. A human that's going to care about my health and my well-being and making sure I'm alive and capable of
agree, but why wouldn't like a cow have the same thought process?
Because their thought process is I'm going to get milked and I'm going to produce milk and I'm going to produce like my meat. They're going to live like, you know, and they're going to take my life so I can provide for these people. Where horses, like the only thing that they've done, you think back to the Oregon Trail, man. You think back to long, long times ago, which I don't know if that was horses or donkeys, but either way,
horses are not native to North America. They were brought here, I believe, by the Spaniards.
It is funny to think about too, like every other animal that you could sit on, none of them would let you sit on them.
Well, like what?
Think about every animal.
If I tried, I could sit on a turtle.
I was just thinking turtle too, which is hilarious.
It's the easiest one. It looks like a seat.
Dogs do not like dog, turtle. Let's think about like even like wolves.
Elephant. You can ride on an elephant.
You can.
But they're also the most like empathetic and knowledgeable animals. They have very good memories and all that stuff. So it kind of makes sense for them to be like, yeah, these people are just trying to go somewhere.
Can't ride on anything in the water. Dolphins, maybe. If you're sick.
You could probably ride on a dolphin.
You could. But I think that's a good answer, man. I think it's like it's their job. It's like what they think is what they should be doing. Kind of like what you were saying prior.
I think
when
they're
I came
vain.
back.
I think that they really, really appreciate the same way a dog, like you get home, or you throw them a ball and they're like, ah, and then you give them a pat in the head and they're like, good job. I think that horses just want to be told, like, I'm very similar to a horse.
You are.
I need to be told, good job, and that I love you.
He is right. Like Joe will sometimes come up to us as friends of Joe. I'll be like, "Do you love me? Like, do you care about me?
Yeah.
Like, do you actually think that was funny?"
Do you?
And I do every time, but like, it's almost like he doesn't believe me when I say
I know. I need the reassurance. I'm much like a horse.
He is like a horse. Joe is horse. I won't say it on the podcast.
My old nickname.
Yeah,
can't let that resurface. You guys could assume.
I forgot about that nickname till now.
That was my old nickname.
But anyways, we're hopping into another segment.
Yeah,
we got two more segments, and we're popping out of here. Longer episode, but we appreciate you guys watching the reincarnation, and like that's stuff that we love to do. And like, yeah, anytime we can enhance your knowledge, go through a real life case of what's transpired.
I know we say it a lot, but like that was a very thought provoking bit. If you don't comment down below and say your thoughts on it, get out of here. This is a community.
It is.
It's gonna eventually be a cult. Honestly, I'm getting pissed as fuck because Pat Hive is building up this cult in our comment section. They have like 5 sadistic followers that are all huddling around, I would assume, in black robes and worshiping Pat. And it's like going on in our comment section when Thinking Beers does not have the same following. So, goddamn.
We love the Pat Hive, though.
I love the Pat Hive, but we need to build up because I'm assuming eventually Pat Hive's going to try and overtake.
But they could, but we'll beat Pat Hive, bro. We got Pat Hive on lock.
We need more.
Pat Hive doesn't have the same life enhancers that we got, bro. Which kind of begs me. Let me ask you first, man. We do this every episode. What's enhanced your life this week? What's been something that you feel like could enhance the lives of others this week? What you got working on?
Nothing. So honestly, nothing. Life and Answers, it's supposed to be a segment for us to bestow something upon you guys where you guys can lead a better life, and I don't have that. After the way I acted last weekend, I have nothing. I deserve nothing, and I do not have the ability to tell people how you should live your lives. So I'm hoping by the time the next episode comes around, I'll be a better man. I'll be a better mentor, but for now, I am a humble amoeba floating around this hellscape of a planet with no direction and no causation for any of my actions besides remorse following them. So anyways, what's yours? What you got to...
Well, thanks for asking, Joe. I appreciate you asking. I'm sorry you didn't have one this week. Mine this week is just something that should have been said a while ago. This is something that chat should be doing. Everybody should be doing every time that they go to a function.
I like that watch, by the way.
Thank you. It's a fake rollie.
You did not have to say it was fake. Everybody would thought it was real.
That's all right, bro. I like telling people how it is, bro. You should buy a fake rollie. You should buy a real one. Why you spend that much money? But anyways, life enhancer. For me this week, it is ordering DoorDash before you call the Uber. Like, you're going to still be at the function. Right. So when we were at St. Patty's Day, I think we were about 10 minutes away from Joe's, and that's when I called DoorDash. So I knew I was going to hang out with Joe for like at least a little bit and then get an Uber back from Joe's to my place.
Sorry, Chet.
And I call this DoorDash. I get a ridiculous amount. I got a crispy chicken pita it was a Coney Island. I got
perfect order.
A Coney dog,
Pita's
a chicken
Coney
pita,
Island go crazy.
Mozzarella sticks, and chili cheese fries.
Jesus Christ.
I'm one human being that lives by myself, but like if I'm doing this, I love being excited when the food shows up. And I'll have some in the morning. You know, I actually had the hot dog the next day.
Nothing beats leftover chili cheese fries.
Oh, it's gross. It's gross.
Dude, what is wrong with you?
Nobody should be doing that, but that's what I did. I'm not thinking logically at 1 a.m. on a Saturday night after a beer crawl or a bar crawl.
I literally didn't have a single thought in that time.
And I bet Joe wishes that. I wish Joe wishes that he ate that night before he went to bed. After
that night, I woke up and I ordered. I honestly shouldn't judge you because I think the bill for the McDonald's breakfast we got was $90, and I ate so much. And Marissa was just looking at me with a pure expression of shock on her face as I just continued to munch.
Yeah, and that's what
Which
I'm worried about
honestly,
with a girlfriend.
really quick, shout out Marissa. Thank you for being with me after everything you've seen me go through, because I think in that time frame, the 12 hours in that time frame, I just I was a drunk that you would see in like Liverpool that's like stumbling around, and you know what I mean, like trying to get into fights and like committing voter fraud and shit like that. And then I just slept in the bathroom for 12 hours, locked her out, and then I woke up and I immediately ordered $9 of McDonald's, and I just ate it all in like 20 minutes, then went back to bed. There's no reason she should look at me and say, "This is what I wanted."
This is who I want to spend the rest of my life with. I would say that, though. I love you, Joe.
I appreciate that.
And I was thinking the same thing. Like, Marissa, shout out to you. We love you ever since we met you. I love you. Even though I'm not your partner, yeah. I do love you. But no, we appreciate it. A question for another day is, do we make ourselves better? Like me and you. Do I make you better? Do you make me better? It's a question for another day. I don't want to answer it right now. Mm-hmm. It's a question for another day, but it's a funny question.
Short answer, yes.
I think we do. But there's a lot of counterpoints I would argue.
Well, the things that we do together are incredibly detrimental to the human existence, but the conversations we have outweigh it.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. It's like it keeps you alive. It keeps you functioning.
Now, but no, DoorDashing that food is lit up.
That's, yeah, I mean, and we don't have to go into more detail, but it's literally time it out, man. It's about 30, 35 minutes, 40 minutes.
Typically, DoorDash takes long. Their expectation.
Be at the club, order DoorDash. If you're going back with somebody else, it's so lit to show them at the club, like, what do you want from Taco Bell? Mm-hmm. What do you want from here? What do you want from there? And they're like, oh, I didn't even think about this. And you're like, yeah, I'm goated.
I know we're already running long on time, but I have to tell this story of Marissa was out of town. I was left to my own devices. I went out, probably with Chris, and I get home. I ordered Taco Bell DoorDash. Wait for it for an hour. Delivered. It's at my office. Fuck. Not here. Calling the guy. I'm bitching him out. I'm like, motherfucker, bring it to me. Bring it to me. I'm not there. I was like 10 minutes away. I was like, I'll Venmo you. He's like, no. And so I was like, whatever. And then so I order Leo's Coney Island to the apartment this time. But it was taking forever. And I was like, fuck, they must be closed. So I'll exit out that Leo's order, go back to Taco Bell. Back on the Taco Bell grind, order Taco Bell to the apartment. DoorDasher hits me up, order arrived. Boom, Taco Bell's here. I'm munching. 5 minutes later, Leo shows up. Damn, order went through. Spent about $150 for a chicken finger pita wrap or whatever the hell, and like a taco 12 pack. Did not need that much food, obviously. Nobody needs that much food. So I started munching, and then this was on a Friday, and my work works on Saturdays, and my boy calls me the next day in the morning. He's like, did you order a taco 12 pack to the office? And I was like, you guys can have it if you want. He's like, it's been sitting out here all night. And I was like, it's only like 4 hours ago.
You guys be working. I'd be a grimace in the night.
Yeah, but that bill did not feel good.
No, it never feels good the next day. The bill never feels good the next day. But you were gonna find food somewhere or another, and you definitely were not gonna cook food. And that's at the end of the day, my life enhancer is just call it while you're at the club. Get people involved if you can. It'll be showing up for you when you get home. Yeah. That way you don't get home, then order it, then you're asleep before it shows up. That's like the reason that I use this as a life enhancer, because I was falling asleep so frequently before my food got there.
Which you always have to eat in the morning. A lot of people will say, no, I'm not going to eat it. It's been sitting out all night. You have to eat it. You're a gigantic pussy. Yeah. My one life enhancer, if I had one.
There was ants all over my McDonald's the next morning.
Have to.
No, I didn't.
It's extra protein. But if I did have one life enhancer, check the address you're sending it to first. Mm-hmm. If you move around a lot, I'm notorious for that.
Yeah, work and
just
home.
Double check it.
Yeah, check it.
But moving on, we're going on to final segment, Gem of the Week. I'll go ahead and start off with this. So I guess we'll kind of give a full synopsis here. I was traveling the last few days. Went down to Houston for a business trip. I'm going to be in Dallas next weekend for 5 days, which is why we're recording a little bit prematurely. This episode we're recording right now won't be coming out for a few weeks now. So Michigan State honestly might even be eliminated from the tournament by the time this comes out. Fingers crossed. But those past few days where I was traveling, I got my gem of the week. So I went down there for business on a customer visit. And I really respect my managers. They're very insightful men that have been in the industry for a long time. And they told me before I went down there, normally when you're visiting clients, you ask them if they can get dinner or food or whatever it might be. And they had said that their kids were on spring break, so they didn't want to do that. And I was like, that's fine. We can just meet in your office, but how about we just bring you some bagels and donuts? Does that sound good? And they were like, yeah, that sounds perfect or whatever. And so before we're driving over to their office, and my manager goes, Joe, business meeting etiquette, if you're bringing bagels and donuts, you have to take the first bite, or else they will not feel comfortable enough to eat
That is
after
valid.
you.
I've been in that. Yeah.
No, it's
That is
complete.
valid.
It's completely valid.
Yeah.
So I go into this meeting. It's 2 women and 4 men from my team that are meeting with them. They sit down on one side of the table. I sit down at the other. We kind of shake hands. Everything's going good. And I say, hey, we brought you guys some donuts. You know, it's actually a local place. You guys have probably had it before, but go ahead. Feel free to, have some if you want.
Yeah.
And they both go, no, we're good. And in my mind, my manager told me I had to eat or else they would not feel comfortable. So I go, okay, no worries. So I just grab a donut out of there. I take a bite out and I look at them. I'm like, you guys want one? And they both look at me and they go, no. And then I look at the other guy we were with. I was like, do you want one? He's like, no, I'm good. And so I was the only one with the donut.
What kind of donut?
The one I grabbed was glazed. Which is like the worst one to grab. So like I was just sitting there, and like after everybody said no, we were kind of like trying to carry on the business meeting, but we didn't have plates or napkins, so there was nowhere where I could put this. So I kind of like lowered it underneath the table, and like once every like 2 seconds I go and like take like 3 bites out of it, and I put it back down, and then I finished in like a minute and a half, and by the time it was done, I mean my hand is clearly covered in like sugar and glazed donut grease or whatever the hell, and there were no napkins. I assumed everybody was gonna have a donut, and then my hands were filthy, so I was just rubbing it on the chair in their office, and it was just,
that's the move.
It was taking off all the grease, and then the rest of the meeting went good besides that. But then as soon as we get out and we leave, I look at my managers, I'm like, what the fuck's wrong with you? You were the one that told me to get him donuts, and also you said that I had to eat one. And he was like, you should have known. As soon as they said no, you shouldn't have grabbed a donut. And it's like, fuck you, man. You told me.
Yeah, what am I supposed to do? I'm listening to what you told me to do prior.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was just sitting there like a jackass.
I've been at one of those meetings where like I was the one picking up the bagels and donuts. It was bagels, but I was the one picking up the
bagels. Would have been better though. Donuts destroy your hand.
Yeah.
True. The rest of the meeting, I'm like flipping through this like pamphlet that I had for them, and my hand was sticking to each page.
Yeah. I've been there though, where I literally got pulled over on the way to the meeting, and I was like, "Sorry, I'm late, guys. I was on my phone while I was driving and got flicked for it." So
that's tough. That's a tough spot to be in.
At the end of the day, man, just be aware of your surroundings.
I should have been. I should have been, but tough. I was abiding by the rules that were set place before me.
If that was me, I would have listened to what my boss told me, but I also would have been like, I'm not eating unless somebody else is like, yeah, I got the...
In my mind, I was breaking the ice. I was breaking the ice.
Well, that's what it should be. You should be like, I got it from this beautiful place down the street that I've heard great things about. And then
it was called Shipley Donuts, which apparently it was this wide receiver that played for I think Texas. He played for Texas, and he opened up. He didn't make it in the league, but he opened up this large donut chain, which, I mean, it was pretty fire. It was good donuts. And then at the end, they obviously all have their kids, and we were like, well, you guys didn't have any. You can bring them home to your kids. And it was fun. They were like, oh, we would never eat that, but our kids will. And I was like, all right, well, I mean, I had one. But it was also to the point, though, where I ate one so early. I was a little bit hungry. I was kind of sitting there like, I hope they don't take them, because I would munch like 3 more of them. Yeah. But I mean, it was a good trip, though.
Will you let me take it home? Can I take it home then? You're not?
It was a good trip in Houston. I mean,
how's the weather there?
Like, it was good. So, I mean, we golfed. The first day we were down there, we golfed this course called Tour 18, where every hole was modeled after a hole on tour.
Awesome.
I
remember Mitch talking about that.
Yeah, I didn't calculate where if every hole was modeled after a hole on tour, it'd be incredibly difficult. I just like the last 7 holes, I was picking up my ball and just throwing it on the green and being like, yeah, I'm putting for 7. That was good. And then we went out to dinner after. One of my pretty high up managers was telling me that I thought it would be funny. It didn't really land, but he was telling me that him and his wife were trying for a kid. And I said, oh, have you tried sex? But apparently that's a faux pas if somebody's trying and struggling to have a kid.
Yeah.
And then get back, first night you shower. I was showering, and the curtain didn't cover the entire bathtub, so the entire bathroom was just sopping wet. It was so fucked.
Did you have a roommate or by?
No, it was just by yourself. Dude, it was actually a nice room. It was probably like 850 square feet. It had full apartment amenities. It was so nice. The hotel was so nice. But the one problem was the shower curtain. So the floor was soaking wet. I didn't have enough towels to clean it up. Room service, never. Yeah. Well, they did knock, and I was watching Good. And I was like, get the fuck out of it. So I never got more towels.
Did they, or was the weather, was it too humid there? Was it normal? It was fine?
It was good this time of year. It was like a very beautiful 80 to where I was just sweating a little bit, but it gave me a nice golden
little breeze.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I looked like shiny. It was good.
What gets into my gem of the week is daylight savings, man.
That's your gem of the week?
Which is controversial.
Most people hate this.
I heard that it's very controversial. Mm-hmm. Never was till a couple of years ago. But controversial
for the damn Democrats.
Now. And I love daylight savings. And I'm going to keep it short, and I'm going to keep it sweet.
Mm-hmm.
Daylight savings is way lighter out earlier in the day now, so I can experience my day. I can drive home and it's light out from work. I don't feel like my day's over when I'm done at work. That's the first part, is you have more daylight to the day. Obviously, one takes it away, one gives it back, this one gave it back. Whatever. Mm-hmm. I'm cool with both, because for both of them, my second point is that you get to celebrate them. Celebrate them, man.
Yeah.
Like, we didn't even realize it was daylight savings when we went out for the bar crawl. We did.
Well, it's tough to celebrate when it's moving in the reverse.
Well, I think it's fine.
Like when you're losing
both.
now.
I think
it's cooler when you gain an hour, but when you lose an hour, it's just kind of not.
But you also got to look at it in the viewpoint of, I'm getting more light in daytime to the day.
Yeah.
Versus than what I was going to have before.
You know the biggest argument for daylight savings besides farmers? It's kids at bus stops.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Because they're saying that they shouldn't be sitting out there in the dark. Which is fair. That's probably fair.
I agree.
You get snatched up like the lovely
dropped
bones.
off in the dark at night either. No. Not that they are, because it's earlier. But that is my gem of the week. And I'm just going to leave it at that.
Yeah.
It's just going to be, hey, the weather's nicer. And it got nicer right when daylight savings happened, which I thought was cool.
It's clutch. I mean, daylight savings, when you spring forward, it's just the sign that shit's about to pop off. You can golf.
Yeah.
You can do whatever you want. You can go to bed.
More day to work with
a little dusk
and
out.
A pro tip for anybody that hasn't done this before, treat daylight savings. I don't care either of them. Treat both of them like New Year's Eve. Like New Year's. It is the most fun you will ever have in your entire life. I remember fire extinguisher spraying in college. I remember one of the best nights of my life till this point was a daylight savings that I celebrated in college, I think my junior year. And man, it was like we treated it like New Year's, and then you got an extra hour to celebrate daylight savings.
Yeah.
So
it's a blast.
We're like Joe said, we filmed this one a little bit early. We're excited to get this one out, but at the end of the day, we're gonna have a lot to fill you in with the next episode.
A lot of life is gonna happen.
State, if State's still in this, John, camera on the line. We're excited for it. I appreciate you guys tuning in this episode.
If State's not still in the tournament by the next episode, I'm gonna make 2 stops. The first one at the Strong Rope store, and the next one at the Rickety Stool store.
And that's episode 5, my friends. That's episode 5. You see me, you don't. We're happy to be here.
I don't.
Joe can't see me, but hey, we're happy. We appreciate you guys. Thank you for sitting through all the pisses we had this time. Thank you for
get used to it.
Let us know if you like the reincarnation type stuff too, or we dive a little bit deeper into it.
We're both educated enough to be able to explore a topic like that.
Yeah, and I thought it went well. But
also comment down below who's hotter. Me. So see you guys later, chat. Love you guys.